Hello, and welcome to Ravenwoods. Today we'll be discussing spirit photography of the Victorian era. Spirit photography is a type of photography whose primary goal is to capture images of ghosts or other spiritual entities, especially in ghost hunting. It dates back to the 1800s. At the end of the American Civil War and the mid 19th century, spiritualism movement contributed greatly to the popularity of spirit photography. Photographers such as William Mulmer and William Hope ran thriving businesses taking photos of people with their supposed dead relatives. Both were shown to be frauds, but true believers such as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle refused to accept the evidence as proof of a hoax. As cameras became available to the general public, ghost photographs became more common due to natural abnormalities in the camera, such as flash reflecting off of dust particles, a camera strap or hair loose close to the lens, or lens flare, or in modern times, deceptions using smartphone applications that add ghosts to images or to existing photographs. The first practical photography, induced in 1839, used the process called daguerreotype, and spirits were never captured on that type of photography. According to Owen Davies in The Haunted, A Social History of Ghosts, ghost photography started with photographic experimentation using people standing in front of or behind glass windows, or noting that the long exposures required at the time would often result in transparent images when people or animals left the frame during the exposure. Sir David Brewster, in 1856, recognized that these effects could be used to deliberately create ghostly pictures. The London Stereoscopic Company decided to use Brewster's idea and create a series of images called The Ghost of the Stereoscope. But it was not until glass plate negatives were used in circa 1859, making double images possible, that spirits began to regularly appear in photographs. From the 1860s on, the spirit photographers were no longer using the long exposures and double images previously used, but instead looked like used what looked like cutout faces and bodies from magazines to represent disembodied figures. By the 1880s, as more people owned cameras, spirit photography boomed. It didn't start to decline until after the 1920s, after skeptics such as Harry Houdini tried to counteract the spiritualist frauds. An American jewelry engraver and amateur photographer named William Mulmer published in 1862 a photograph that was supposedly the spirit of his cousin who had died 12 years earlier. The media sensation that this caused led Mulmer to leave engraving and to begin a successful business as a spirit photographic medium, which he set up in New York and Boston, servicing those hoping to find a supernatural connection with relatives that were killed in the American Civil War. One of Mulmer's most famous images is a photograph of Mary Todd Lincoln, posed with the spirit of her assassinated husband, Abraham Lincoln. The apparent spirits that Mulmer had captured were double exposures of previous clients from photographic plates that were improperly cleaned. Spirit photography was taken to court in New York City in 1869. The case, a preliminary hearing for William H. Mulmer, who was charged with fraud for selling photographs that he claimed included images of ghosts or spirits. Testimony and arguments lasted for 7 days. On Mulmer's side, witnesses included a prominent former judge who was also a spiritualist. Among the opposing witnesses were several photographers who explained how the same effects could be achieved by darkroom tricks, and P.T. Barnum, who said he purchased one of Mulmer's photographs to exhibit them in his museum as specimens of the humbug. The hearing attracted nationwide attention, including the full cover page of the mass circulation of Harper's Weekly. In the end, the judge decided to drop the charges against Mulmer, citing lack of evidence. According to the New York Daily Times Tribune, the judge explained, however, he might believe that trick and deception had been practiced by Mulmer, yet as he sat there in capacity as a magistrate, he was compelled to decide that the prosecution had failed to prove the case. Both sides were able to declare victory. The prosecution had exposed Mulmer, revealing that the same ghost had appeared in certain photographs taken in Boston and New York, a spirit of a man who turned out to be very much alive. Mulmer went back to spirit photography and gloated a bit in a pamphlet he published in 1875. but his brush with the law took its toll, both to his reputation and to his finances. Mulmer never recovered from the $3,000 cost of his defense, a staggering sum for the state. He destroyed all of his negatives shortly before his death in 1884. Spirit photography started appearing in England in 1872 from photographer Frederick Hudson's studios. He allegedly gimmicked his camera to hold a pre-exposed image that would move into place when he took his photo. In 1875, Edward Bouguer, a French spirit photographer who also had a studio in London, was arrested in Paris and prosecuted for fraud after making a full confession. He simulated spirits by wrapping dolls in gauze and attaching photos of faces onto them. His confession was widely publicized in the French and English press. In 1891, one of the most famous spirit photographs was taken by Sybil Corbett. She took a photo of the library at Cheshire, England, in which appeared the faint outline of a man's head, collar, and right arm. The figure was believed to be the ghost of Lord Combermere, who had recently died and was being buried at the time the photo was taken. Because the exposure was 1 hour, it was believed by skeptics that someone, possibly a servant, had walked into the room and paused, causing a ghostly outline. One of the most famous photographers at the turn of the century was William Hope. In February 1922, Harry Price from the Society of Psychic Research, a magician named Seymour, Eric J. Dingwall, and William S. Marriott showed Hope to be a fraud. They devised a plan where they presented Hope with glass negatives that had been secretly been marked with X-rays. The return plate containing the spirit had no markings. Price wrote his findings in the Journal of the Society for Psychic Research. Despite this proof, prominent spiritualists such as Arthur Conan Doyle claimed the report was part of a conspiracy against Hope. Hope had continued success despite the evidence against him. Paranormal investigator Massimo Palerdo said that the case of William Hope and his followers demonstrate how difficult it can be to convince true believers, even when there is strong evidence of fraud. There were several books published defending the possibility of spirit photography. Among the notable books were The Case for Spirit Photography by Arthur Conan Doyle, published in 1922, where Doyle attempted to defend William Hope and his Crew Circle, a well-known spiritualist group at the time. Other spiritualists who authored books supporting spirit photography were Georgiana Houghton, who published Chronicles of the Photographs of Spiritual Beings and Phenomenon Invisible to the Material Eye in 1822, and James Coates, who wrote Photographing the Invisible in 1911. It is clear that spirit photography of the Victorian era was a significant part of the culture and history of the time. Though we may not be able to fully understand the motivations behind it, we can appreciate the ingenuity of those who sought to dupe the public in an era of superstition and belief in the supernatural. With modern technology and understanding, we can now see these examples of fraud in spirit photography for what they really are, a fascinating reminder of a time gone by. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks and have a good day.